Hey guys, this episode is with Beau Barkley, the creative director at Western Welding Academy. Not only is it that old boy made me pull it out of him, but he's an Emmy Award winner. He's got a great background in videography, photography, and then how he took that and brought it over to Western Welding Academy and is really helping those guys go after an age-long trade and make it cool and attract in this next level of talent, this next generation that we need to sustain that trade. Great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned. You hear that? Look at here. They're coming. They're coming. We're going to have a party. I'm talking good on barbecue. I am joined by Beau Barkley from the Western Welding Academy. You guys have listened to some of our previous episodes where we talk about blue-collar jobs, needing to get young folks involved with them. That's exactly what Beau and the folks over at Western Welding Academy are doing. They've got some pretty cool initiatives we want to talk about. But first, Beau, let's get started, man. Welcome to the Old Boy Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chad. Appreciate it. This is super cool. So appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to chatting about this. So you're the creative director over at Western Welding Academy right now. Walk me back. Where did welding kind of come into your life? Is it something you found a little bit later? Is it something you did earlier in life? And a little bit about the academy, how it came forward, but really where did your love from welding and deciding to want to work in not just this industry, but in the education of this industry, where that came from?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll just be upfront. I'm actually not a welder,
okay.
But I come from blue-collar trades. You know, I worked as a stonemason for a little bit, worked in the oil field, pumper, worked on music tours for a little bit, fitness industry. So I got a lot of, for the last basically 20 years, I've kind of been in and out of the trades.
Okay.
And how I got linked up with Western Welding was... about 6 years ago, I started a video production agency, and we were out of Denver. My wife and kids were out of Denver. We were from Gillette originally, and then we started having a ton of kids, and we're like, okay, we need to get back to Gillette because we didn't have any family in the city, and being in the city with a lot of little kids was pretty difficult. So I'd been getting more work in Gillette, which is a very small town. It's like 30,000 people. So, I didn't think that there was really opportunity there, but my buddy Matt Walker, he called me up one day. I hadn't talked to him in like 10 years. And he's like, hey, I got this new project that I'm doing. Can you come in and shoot some videos? And I was like, sure, man. Yeah, we caught up just like we left off in high school. And when I got there, he was like, dude, why couldn't you do this in Gillette? I'm like, man, it's a small town. There's not a market for it here. And he's like, there is, because no one can do this kind of stuff. Like the production level that you guys are doing, no one does that in Gillette. So he just kind of kept in my ear the whole time. And then we put out a couple projects, and all of a sudden there was local businesses like calling out, and they had, real budgets. I was like, holy crap, this is kind of crazy. So I, like I said, we had little kids, and I was like, hey, I think there's an opportunity in Gillette, be closer to family, all that kind of stuff. And so I got linked up with Tyler Sassy, which is the owner of Western Welding, in 2020, and talked to him just off of Facebook Messenger. We're going back and forth, and we were trying to get on a call, never ended up getting on a call. And I shot him I was working early, got up in the morning and shot him a text back, and it was like probably 4:15 in the morning. And he calls me. I'm literally in the closet office next to my wife and a newborn baby. He calls me. I was like, oh, crap. Ran downstairs, and then we had our first conversation at like 4:20 in the morning. And he's like, well, I got this welding competition coming up. It was their first one in 2020. So talk back and forth. I came down. Went up to Wyoming. I brought another guy that was a shooter editor, and then I was shooting photos. Went and did that, covered the comp. And then, during that time, Tyler and I just really hit it off. He's just super, super smart guy, but down to earth with you. He's a hard-working guy, and I just saw what he's done in basically 1 year, which was pretty incredible, like from conception in 2019 to where he was in 2020. And then over that course, over the next like year and a half, we just kind of touch base and do a couple more projects together and everything with Western. And I was really like, okay, there's more momentum going in Gillette at that time. And then we have 3 kids. So at the time, our oldest was 17. She was a senior in high school. And we told her, hey, you know, we won't pull you out as a senior girl in high school to a small town. I think there's an opportunity in Gillette. We had another, I guess he was 1, and then we have a 5-year-old, and we got the news that we're having twins.
Ooh.
We were like, okay, so we need to get back to Gillette for sure now. And so I'm running through the whole process. I'm like, oh my gosh, how much am I going to have to pull out of the business? And my wife was working full time and figured out a number. And then Tyler calls like 5 days later. He's like, hey man, I know I've talked to you about it over the past like year and a half. You know, I know that you're probably not into coming and working full time, but I kind of need someone with your exact skill set. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And we were kind of chatting, and I was like, oh, okay, do you have like a salary in mind? And then I was like, I'll try to find you someone. And he said the exact same number that I wrote down of what I needed to make. And I was like, okay, this could be some sort of sign that this might be the ticket, because we needed to get back to Gillette. I needed, the full-time thing, and so it was pretty crazy. So we got it worked out. I told him, like, hey, if we want to do this, I come with a lot of baggage because I have twins on the way. I'll need to commute every weekend, which is about a 6-hour drive one way. Yeah. So there was a bunch of hoops to go through, and I still had the other business and all that stuff. So we worked it out. I started January 3rd, 2022. I commuted back and forth every single weekend. So I would leave Gillette Friday morning at like 10 or noon, drive back to Denver, stay over there until Sunday at noon, and then drive back and then work in Gillette the whole time. So during that time, my wife was fully pregnant with twins, dealing with all the little kids. So for a year and a half, I did that. My oldest daughter graduated high school, went off to college, and then we fully moved here, whole family, in like August. So it's been pretty crazy.
Man, but what a commitment to get it started. And I'm one of those too that, like, call it a sign, call it divine intervention, whatever you want to. But the fact that you had a number, you enjoyed working with Tyler and those guys, and he comes up and offers you, and that's the number. Like, it's one of those, if you turned your back on that, you would always wondered, like, what the hell was I thinking, you know?
Totally. Yeah, it was crazy to think, because, when I first started my video company, I was like, oh man, I'll never work for anyone again. I'm never going to do that. I'm out on my own. And that's before I met Tyler Sassy. Then I was like, okay, I get it. This is a rocket ship. It is doing the coolest things in a very old school industry, welding and the trade schools and everything.
But making it cool.
I hate to use the word disrupting, but we're fully disrupting the entire industry. Like schools that have been around for 40, 50, 100 years. We started in 2019, and we're balls to the walls,
I love it. And I want to talk about that in a second, but I kind of want to go back also, because I feel like this is applicable to kind of what we talk about on here is, you talked about having your own company where you were going around, filming content, this and that. To me, what I think is amazing when people are out there, like, trying to find what they want to do or this or that, like, the world's so much different than when I was coming out of high school, you were coming out of high school. Like, you never thought there'd be an opportunity, but I know numerous guys that have made a very good living off of just being great photographers, having great eyes, great videographers, the ability to come back and cut that stuff together. And some of these budgets, when you get folks, that appreciate your work. I mean, you can make a very, very good living having your own shingle, as people that capture that content. And it's not a heavy load like you were talking about, one or two other guys. And most of the time, and you can talk about this better than me, but just from my experience and working with a lot of content companies, most of those are freelance folks anyway. So, you're paying them when you pay them because you're getting paid. It's not a bad gig. Talk a little bit about that if you don't mind before we get into talking about Western and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, sure. So after I was working stonemasonry in Montana, I had kind of like this.
What part of Montana, by the way?
In the back, up in Bozeman.
Okay. Yep.
So Bozeman, and then we worked out at Big Sky a lot up in a place called the Yellowstone Club, which is the only private, or before it was the only private ski area in the whole nation. I mean, you had to show that you had like $2 million in the bank just to be able to go look at property up there. And then, the lots alone are $1 million. It was Bill Gates, Oprah, everyone had a spot.
To me, one of the first events I did up in the Big Sky area, it was weird for an old boy from Polk County because I'm like, what are these fucking helicopters doing above head? And they were bringing in all the steel for these mansions that they're building on mountainsides. And I'm like, you got too much fucking money? Whenever it takes a helicopter to bring in the metal for your house, bro, that's when you got too much money.
Go
ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you were talking about Big Sky, I had to share that story because I was like, what in the ever-living hell are they doing?
Yeah, it was pretty insane, man. There were some pretty incredible places. We worked on a 20,000 square foot solid rock house. That was I think the bid for the rock alone was like a $2 to $3 million. So it was pretty crazy, but so the video thing, it kind of started back in high school. I took a TV production class and was my buddy and we messed around the entire class. Like, we did not listen. We were just constantly getting sent in the hall and all this stuff. And felt pretty bad now, but when it came to the projects being done, like, I remember kind of just like getting into it, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool editing. So when it came time to like showing our projects, the teacher was kind of just like beside herself because you guys mess around all day, but your projects were some of the best in the class. So it was pretty funny. So, got into it. I mean, how I kind of started getting into it, and this sounds kind of crazy, but was shooting street fight videos and then editing them to like heavy metal music. So there was, we have a bunch of street fights, and normally it would be my friends, my mutual friends, that are fighting each other, because I didn't really get like the whole clique thing. Oh, I'm only friends with the jocks, I'm only friends with the skaters or potheads or whatever. I was just kind of found a few cool people in each deal. So a lot of times it would be, people, my friends fighting each other. So I'd get a bunch of those, and a lot of times the cops would get called before the fight even happens, so it would start to get where everyone's like, okay, everyone keep their mouth shut. It'll just be the two guys and then a few of their friends. And then they would call me, because I always kept my camera in my truck. They're like, Beau, don't tell anyone, but come out and shoot it. So I was like, perfect. And I wasn't like nervous about standing back. It would literally be, within a foot or two of their face, just getting in. And then I would take that and edit it. I remember my final senior project for video production was a compilation of a bunch of fight videos, and my teacher was like, oh, Beau, man, the editing was great. I love the film work, but were those fights like real or were they staged? I'm like, oh yeah, everything was staged. Yeah. You could see clearly close-up shot, like slow motion. And this is back, when we were shooting and editing on iMovie and then recording it on a VHS tape. So I took those tapes, took the final, and I sold them to friends, because a lot of them didn't get to see those fights. So I sold them for $10 a piece and probably made a couple $100. You pay for a $2 VHS tape, and my brother-in-law's like, dude, I still got that thing, man. We should find a VHS player.
Yes.
So that's how I kind of, got into it. But, grow up in a small town in Gillette, Wyoming, you don't think that opportunity to do that for a living is even a possibility. It's just like, oh, people do that. It's just for fun. You don't realize the actual benefits or the opportunity out there. So I went off after I graduated high school. I worked as a track laborer on the railroad right there in Gillette, a bunch of coal mines and all that kind of stuff. And then I went to school in Bozeman Didn't really know what I was going to do. I was living in the dorm. I was working at a brickyard, 35 hours a week. All the rest of my friends are sleeping in, like, oh man, I missed gym class at 10 a.m. Like, bro, I was up at 5 and we were out till 2 last night. Like, what are you guys doing? So did that, got picked up by a stonemasonry company, and guys like, man, you're the only one that works around here. He's like, you want a job? I was like, I mean, how much does it pay? And it was, a lot more than I was getting at the brickyard. So I just dropped out of school and went and did that for a little bit. And finally I was like, man, I really want to try that film thing out. So I went down to Orlando, Florida, and got my bachelor's in film and video from. Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was year and 9 months, and I got a bachelor's, so it was very, very accelerated, but a lot of fun. And then I kind of got distracted a little bit for about 10 years until, I just got very distracted. So finally started. Yeah. So then I worked on music tours for about 5 years. So Rockstar Mayhem Festival, I don't know if you ever heard, it's a bunch of heavy metal stuff, and did that for in and out for 5 years. And then when I'd come home, it was a very seasonal thing. So I'd come home off tour, back to Gillette, and I'd go like work as a pumper in the oil field, go back out on tour, come in, be a screw compressor mechanic, which I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was just like, oh yeah, we'll try this out. Always man, I got this opportunity to go back on tour. It was, I knew it was coming every year, but the company didn't. So it was kind of crappy. I feel bad about that. But
I know I'm taking this gig for 6 months, but I don't have to take it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So then my wife and I and my stepdaughter moved to Denver, kind of toured for a little bit longer. And then finally I was like, I can't keep going on the road. It was, gone for 3 months and home for a few days and then back out. And it was just not a good lifestyle if you have a wife and kids and all that. So I started coming off a tour was a little tough for me though, because I was just constantly on the go and just used to that lifestyle and just being, very stimulating all the time. And then all of a sudden I'm in the same place, the same bed every single day, and it was a weird transition. So finally got back into CrossFit, and then started became a CrossFit instructor full time, and then I was doing like sales and marketing and maintenance, and I started. This is literally 10 years after I graduated film school, and we were having this CrossFit competition in the gym. I was like, oh man, maybe I'll just take my iPhone out and shoot some stuff. Shot some stuff from my iPhone. It's like, oh, I think I still have iMovie on my computer. Cut up a couple things, and after like 2 or 3 videos, like, man, I totally missed this. What the hell am I doing? So I started doing it for the gym, and my boss, Caleb, the owner, he was all about it because he was just getting free video content for marketing and everything. And he was just like, dude, keep it rolling, man. This is cool. So started doing that, and then clients were actually like, hey, can you do something for my business? You're the one that does all the stuff for the gym. I was like, sure, man. Like, okay, cool. I'll pay you like $100. And I was like, really? Awesome. So I started getting that going, and then, picking up some momentum. We had just had our daughter, so we had a brand new baby. My other oldest kid, I was working full time. My wife was working full time, and I started getting more and more gigs. I was committed. I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I think I want to do this. And she's like, okay, well, you can't take any money out of what you're getting paid right now because we just can't afford it. So I was like, okay, cool. So that gave me the extra little, heat and hustle to keep it rolling. So I looked at everything that we had in the house that I could sell on Facebook Marketplace and eBay, and I was like selling old stuff, like literal hats, individual hats. I was just any money that I had, I just bought a little camera and just kept building it up. And then finally I got to the point where I was making more on the side than I was at the gym, and I was like, okay, I think it's about time. Made the transition. Super scary, and had a lot of things. A perfect time when you have a newborn baby, obviously,
Yeah.
Always a good time to do that. And then I did that for about 5 years. And yeah, had that going. It was great. Like you were talking about with budgets and everything. I mean, I think our best year we did just under $500,000.
That's awesome.
Just on video projects. This is literally going from, at the gym, doing it either for free or for $100. And I was like, holy crap. We had one client, we were just doing post-production, and I think it was like $350K over the course of year and a half or something like that. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Now, this is not me taking home this stuff. I'm paying out
You got costs,
and all that stuff, but yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I had probably a pool of 25, 30 contractors from around Denver and kind of surrounding area that, I was more of the producer. I would shoot photos and a lot of that stuff, but these projects kind of called for a lot of different elements and, different budgets, different vibe. I would have some people in mind. It's like, okay, that guy would work for this one, but he doesn't mesh well with this guy. So we do this, like that. And I was pretty good about putting together crews that were, nimble and just hungry and ready to rock and roll. It's not, I was never into the really big, like, cookie cutter structured film set and all this stuff. I wasn't trying to be like a slick agency or anything like that. I was more into just, hey, let's grit our teeth, let's get it done.
Let's capture real raw shit. You know what I mean? Yeah,
totally.
And to me, that's the content I like to ingest. You know what I mean? Like that's what I look for in my feeds.
Yeah. It was cool, man. I mean, we won a few awards. We got an Emmy from a project we did, and like,
well, you slow played that shit on me. We got an Emmy. You slow played that, Beau.
This is a Heartland. So it's a chapter of the Emmys. So it's like a regional type of deal where they have, you submit your projects, and I don't even know how many there is, but you go to the award ceremony and you go up on stage. You're wearing tuxes and everything, and they do a big dinner.
It's the Emmys, bro.
Well, when we first got it, my wife's like, well, you need to wear a tux. I'm like, babe, I'm not going to get a tux. And I called around to a few people. I'm like, hey, are you wearing a tux? Yeah, bro, it's the Emmys. I'm like, so day of, like, no joke, we cruise downtown, and we walk into this tux shop, and I was like, hey, I need a tux. Like, okay, when you need it? Like in a week or two? Like, I need it by tonight. The guy just started pulling out his hair, like, oh my God. So they fitted me with this old ratty one that was, in the back, and he just kind of buttoned some stuff up. I'm like, okay, good to go. So yeah, went and did that, and got some telly awards that were developed kind of for television commercials years and years ago. And then we got a few of those, and yeah, that was never the goal, is to go win a bunch of awards. I actually never even knew how people won those, but I found out, you got to submit your projects. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So then we submitted a few and got picked, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah,
that's awesome.
One of those things that, you can throw in the very humbly throw behind you in a podcast and
get you some street cred.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is kind of interesting about that background, two things is, one, I love the way you bootstrap the company. I always feel like when it's your money and your possessions that you're selling and not taking on an investor's money or somebody else's, it just means more. It makes you work harder. It makes you, and we've done that here at Whiskey Bent Barbecue. I mean, Nicole and I have financed everything. You know what I mean? And have we grown a little slower? Probably. But is it still all ours? Has it grown at the pace that we're comfortable with? Absolutely. And then the second one is, you told a high school TV production story, so that made me think of one I'd like to share with you, if that's okay.
You betcha.
So I wanted to get into TV production so bad, so I applied my senior year, and so I'm 11th grade going into 12th, and apply for it, and I don't get in. And high school, I was a pretty popular guy, pretty outgoing, so I was like, oh, what the hell? And so I come home, and my mom, and for y'all that haven't met Mama Ward, I'm sure she'll be on the podcast at some point. She's awesome. She's my heart. She's the best. But you tell her baby boy no, you better believe there's going to be a phone call made. And so my high school principal just happened to be a personal friend of my parents. They've been on numerous cruises together, Dr. Wright. super awesome guy, one of the best principals, administrators I've ever met in my life. So mom calls up, says, Clint, baby, we got to talk. Like, Chad didn't get in TV productions. So they call the TV productions teacher down, and she goes, look, I just got done having 2 guys just like Chad this year on TV productions. She's like, and I spent all my time editing out the terrible stuff they did, the terrible stuff they said. She's like, he's a spitting image of those 2. There's no way I'm signing up to do that next year.
They set you up, man.
So mom's like, no, this ain't right. Da, 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 da. Chad promises he won't do that. So long story short, I get in. The best part is not only do I get in, but then later on at our awards ceremony, I won Best Personality of the County for TV productions. And I think you'll appreciate what I won it with. It was a little series we called The Repo Man, Beau. I would dress in all black, and I'd go around and repossess overdue library books. It was a real thriller.
Very aggressively.
Yes, very aggressively. Yes, I did incorporate a lot of wrestling moves. But to me, like, it was so much fun. And I feel like that's why I'm comfortable doing this. That's why I'm comfortable doing so many of the videos, for Traeger and for my brand. Like, it's one of those things, like anything, it's reps. And I feel like, even going all the way back to, 16, 17 years old and thinking about those reps. I mean, there's nothing more nerving. I mean, that's all your peers out there, and you're delivering the news every day. Like, you want to be funny, you want to be entertaining. Like, because if not, you're going to hear that shit in the hallways. Like, dude, pretty weak this morning, man. Like, what's going on? So it was just that thing. But I feel like, as funny as it is, like, it still had an impact on being comfortable doing this all the time. And I always tell people, like, if live TV and that kind of stuff is your thing, like, just try to find as many reps as you can get. Like, anytime anyone ever asks me, hey, do you want to do this live TV spot? Do you want to do this live radio spot? I would also always say yes. I go back and watch some of the early ones, and I'm like, yeah, like a little cringy, but you had to go there to get here. But I love that too, that you had that same background and it kind of woke something up in you. I think that's something to pay attention to also, because I feel like so many times, as we get older, we get caught up in life and you kind of feel like you're in this kind of rut. Step back and look at over the years, like, what has made you happy? What's been good experiences? And it's never too early or too late in life for a career change. You know what I mean? Totally. But if you're doing some shit you don't like, you really can't get into, step back, look at what gives you joy, and start working on building a skill set that can allow you to do that,
Totally. Yeah, I think, looking back on it, in high school, maybe the fact that I didn't realize it was an opportunity is because I had fun doing it. Yeah. And in my head, work should not be fun. Like, if
fun doesn't equal getting paid. Fun,
yeah. Like, you shouldn't get paid to go have fun and to do something that just kind of drives you, that you would do for free, So I think that was probably kind of ingrained into my head, and for the next few years, So I don't know if that could be something for folks out there that are, maybe struggling with that a little bit too. It's like, hey, if you find something that is fun, that you're good at and you're getting better at it, there could be people that are going to pay you for it,
Absolutely.
And you will have to do stuff for free at the beginning. And that's kind of how, with that Emmy, how that came about was there was a CrossFit competition that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are in, and I was just kind of starting off the company, and I was just shooting photos at the time. So I went out and I was just going to take some photos of them during the competition, and I looked over and I saw their photographer was using like an iPhone, and it just hurt my heart. I was like, whoa. So I just went around and just took it upon myself to just take pictures of pretty much the whole competition. And then at the end, I was like, okay, I'm just going to plant this seed right now. Clearly, I'm not. So I put all the photos together, edited them, and then I got in contact with the guy that put on the competition, sent him the photos. I'm like, hey, man, here's yours. There's a lot from the comp. Don't pay me anything now, but just think of me next year when you do this again. And he was like, oh my God, man, this is so cool. And sure enough, next year rolls around, he hit me up. It was a paid gig this time. After that, like, shot a bunch of really cool photos for him. And then after that, he was like, hey, do you do any video work? I'm like, yes, sir, I do. Because that was kind of the next step that I was getting into. And he's like, well, I'm the marketing director for this company called A1 Organics A1 Organics, and we want to do like a story hero video. Are you interested? I'm like, heck yeah. So kind of put together a loose crew-ish. Him and I mean, this project was 2 years from idea to actually having it delivered, because it was, the first initial deal is like they're the largest organics recycler in all of Colorado, and they work with Coors and like the Coors plant and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we were trying to put something together, like a budget and a pitch and a whole kind of like a deck and an idea, to get all those different companies incorporated, and then they would all split the budget. That went on for about a year. I would go back and forth with them, building out a deck and being like, hey, you present this to Coors, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't really getting any traction. And then finally it came down to, he was like, man, I don't think it's going to work out. We can't afford the budget. I was like, okay, let's strip it down. I'll call in some favors from some guys that are like super high quality, call in some favors, and we'll make this thing happen. I was like, we've come way too far to get here and then to just put the brakes on, so still wanted to do it. Got it together. This was probably 4 or 5 days shooting, and talk about like getting out in it in the muck. We were in a landfill in the middle of summer. It was like 110 degrees, and I look over my director of photography, Adam Asdale. He's literally gagging next to because it smelled so bad. So we were just in the trenches, but it was super cool. I mean, we got tons of interviews and everything. Finally got it all shot. Got a good rough cut put together. I was like, this is the project. I hadn't done anything like that big and that cool yet. And I was like, this is it. This is going to level Move Media up. Got a couple drone shots. We had to wait a couple months to get some more drone shots, put it together, sent it to the client. They're like, this is amazing. And then we submitted it for an Emmy and end up getting that. It was crazy because we did it for, I think the original quote was like 40 or 50 grand. We did it for 10. I did everything for free, like my time and all that kind of stuff. This is a ton of different meetings and pre-production. And so we basically broke even cost wise, and I calced it all, and it was about 70 grand if we would have put the actual my time and everything into it. But I think that just goes to show you, especially if you're trying to get some things started, you're just going to have to get some things going for free and call in some favors, because now we have a project to then use to pitch to level up. Sometimes you just gotta do that, and you don't have to, you shouldn't be worrying about, oh, I just put in 6 hours this weekend and I didn't get paid for it. It's like, dude, you just started a business. That's how it goes. It's going to be a lot of work for free. So yeah, it was a good time though. Love that project.
Well, and people, you may know your skill set, but until you've shared it and people see it and appreciate it, it's done nothing for you. You know what I mean? Like, right. Somebody has to be willing to conduct commerce with you for your skill set, and that takes investment. You got to prove yourself and show what you can do, and that's just part of life and part of if you want to grow and be successful as an entrepreneur. But dude, I love the story, and now I kind of want to transition over to talking a little bit about the Western Welding Academy, because in my research for this discussion, and you kind of hit on it in the intro, is I feel like, you guys are taking something that's a very old trade, but making it super cool. And for me, welding's always been one of those, like when it comes to the trades, like probably the one I'm most impressed with. My grandfather was a master welder, worked at the mines for, 50 plus years. Also had a shop where I did a bunch of badass personal projects or projects for friends. And because of that, both my uncles ended up being master welders. And so when I was a kid, my grandfather was like, man, I wanted to learn how to weld. So like 14, 15 years old, I went to him. I'd always sit down at the shop and watch him, and he'd tell me about this and that. And I said, Papa, I want you to teach me how to weld. And he said, son, I feel like you're the only person in this family that is college bound. You know what I mean? Like, if I teach you how to weld right now, he goes, I know you. He goes, you'll see how much money you can make. He goes, as soon as high school's over, you're going to go be an apprentice, and then you're going to fall right into what we've done. He's like, I really want you to go to college. So I was like, all right. He goes, now here's the deal. He goes, when you get your 4-year degree, he goes, as soon as that thing's done, he's like, we'll sit down here and I'll teach you how to weld all you want to. Long story short, he ends up passing not long after I graduate, so we never got to do that. But to me, like, I just feel like it's one of those skills that, you know, and maybe it's just because I watched in amazement, and that's somebody you look up to in life, and so you just think it's cool that they can do it. But like some of the stuff he built, some of the stuff he fixed, like, to me, there was something about, like, he could go out there at the beginning of the day and this thing is broken and fucked to hell. And by the end of the day, it's fixed and doing its job. And to me, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
so for you guys,
cool.
taking that old school, you know, trade and making it cool and making it something this next generation wants to do, because it is hard ass work. It's very attentive. It's very skilled, you know, so getting them to a point where they're actually usable out there in the field, you know, that's what you guys are there for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, Western Welding Academy is by far, again, disrupting the entire industry. Like there's some of the other schools and trade schools and welding schools and all that stuff have been around for, you know, 30, 40, 70, 100 years. And we started in 2019. So, you know, I think 2019, it was 10 kids that started. And then next year was around, I think it was right under 80. Next year in 2021 was like 190, and then I came in at 2022 and we started 470. So this is student starts, not graduation. It's a 6-month program, so everyone goes at their own pace. And then this last year, 2023, a little over 600, and then this year we're forecasting for about 850. So we are growing rapidly. It is a rocket ship, all you know, the brainchild of Tyler Sassy, and I couldn't be more thrilled to work for a guy like that. Like, I would say he's the Elon Musk of the blue collar world, you know, just the dude. His mind works. I'm just like kind of in awe, you know, because he was a pipeline welder for like 15 years. He said his best year he did $352,000, and when I heard that, I was like, "There's no way." It didn't make sense to me that a welder could make that much, because I've never heard of that before. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I can show you the pay stubs." So I was like, "Holy crap, dude, this is crazy." But yeah, he came off the road finally, because he would be gone for 6-8 months, and finally his wife's like, "Hey, yeah, we're not going to do this again. So if you go off again, then I'm not going to be here probably." So you know, he had kids and all that. So that's when the first idea came from, and started the school. You know, he's a hustler, and he just figures it out and just made it happen. And got a group of guys together and just made it happen. And it's been a rocket ship again, like since inception. So yeah, it's a super cool. You just feel good about what you're doing too, you know. And it's not, there's a bigger push and a bigger meaning behind Western Welding Academy. It's not to just bring in and you know, train welders. It's to create a better generation. You know, you can say that all day, and it's like, oh, need to do something about it, and all that stuff. Well, we like to think that we actually are. You know, it's like one of our mottos is training welders that can tackle anything. And when you have a basis of work ethic, accountability, and integrity, then if you have that base built, these kids are young. They're 17 and a half, 19, 20 years old. You create that base, and then when they go out in the world, you know, they can pretty much tackle anything, because it's not easy, and we don't want everyone. You know, a lot of places will be like, oh yeah, it's friendly. It is a friendly atmosphere, but it is not easy. Like, I would say the Navy SEALs meets Harvard. That's kind of like the mashup of Western Welding Academy. And, you know, we don't market like this is a anyone and everyone thing. It's like, hey, if you really want it, then come out to Western, but not everyone's going to make it. We're a little town in Gillette, Wyoming. 99% of our kids are from out of state. So if you go around the parking lot, you'll see New Mexico, Texas, California, you know, East Coast. We even had a kid from Hawaii that came over and went to the program. So yeah, I mean, and you see it when people are coming from a long ways away and no one knows anything about Wyoming. Some people don't even think that Wyoming exists. So they fly out here from Kansas, but they're committed. Like, if they're going to do that and they're going to go out of their way and like leave the comfort zone, they're here, they're committed, and we see, some pretty badass kids come through, like I was saying, when you hear the kind of the old Dodgers, a lot of people say like, oh, kids don't know how to work these days and all that stuff. It's like, to some extent, yes. But what we see at the school is there are some badass kids that are willing to do the work and they get into it. And I don't think the older generation really understands it's, you just have to learn to communicate with them on their level, so it's like the old marketing techniques and all that stuff that doesn't work anymore because we've had such a big change with social media and all that kind of stuff. So early on we found that you're not going to get the attention off of newspaper ads and all that kind of stuff. If you want to get a younger person's attention, it's got to be right here in the palm of their hand. And the easiest way to do that is on social media. So
Facebook ads, Instagram ads.
Yeah. And like really organic stuff.
Yeah.
So we just kind of started getting into like paid ads and everything. But for a while, for years, it was just organic content. So posting about 4 videos a day. I calced it out one time. We have 10 different platforms that we post on, and we post between pictures and videos and story posts about 75 posts per day. So it's pretty heavy. We do live streams, we do tutorial stuff and giveaways and all that kind of stuff. But we want to make sure that we're not just marketing to everyone. We want those kids that are committed. And if you don't do that, you can kind of see when kids come into the school, the instructors are bummed out. They're like, dude, they just thought that this was going to be a real easy skate walk. Okay, cool. Let's switch up how we're talking to them. And then they're like, these kids are studs. We have this whole new influx. These kids they're studs, and then, it is a 6-month program. A lot of kids finish in about 4.5 months because it's a go at your own pace. Mm-hmm. So we do, 3 shifts a day, 5 days a week. So it runs 24/5. We'll have the morning shift is from 6 to 2, 2 to 10 is second shift, and then 10 to 6 in the morning is third shift. In the next few months, we'll be going two shifts per day, which will be nice because we're expanding and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you'll see kids finish in 4.5 months, get a call day of that they graduate, and then go off to somewhere around the U.S. and start working, man. It's pretty crazy. Yeah,
there's 2 things that kind of came out of that. First is, talking about the way you guys manage your socials and this and that. It reminds me a lot of how the guys over at Welder Nation do it. Troll, that's one of their brands that they own. And one thing I've learned from those guys is when you kind of let the community and the product kind of curate the story, and not work as hard, just let that be the thing. And that's one thing I like about going over and consuming their content and this and that is, like, if you're into welding and that's your thing, like Welder Nation, all the content they're sending you, all their gear, it's all focused towards that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just slapping a logo on, it's just something that makes sense and goes with what the community wants, what the community needs. And then the second part there was, I love that it's kind of go at your own pace. So if you are one of these kids that's traveled halfway across the country, like, if you want to get it done a month and a half earlier, you can. And then the third, and it sounds like you guys already have, I got to think when you're putting out a bumper crop of labor like this with a skill that is so desired, you've got to have great relationships with companies on the backside that, hey man, when you guys get somebody, let me get their resume a month before they're going to graduate, so we can go ahead and start interviewing them and seeing if they're a fit. Is that how most of your graduates come out?
Yeah. So a lot of them, we tell them the best way to get a job is a few different parts. First of all, if you want to work, you'll work. If you don't want to work, you won't work, right? Mm-hmm. So we try to really, really train them up and embed them. Hey, you're gonna have to network. First of all, network with everyone that's in your class from all around, because everyone is from everywhere else, So if you develop those relationships, once you're about ready to graduate, that kid could be out for 4 months and he's like, hey dude, we need 3 welders, come out and test. So that's kind of the first place. And then really tie in with the instructors, because all of our instructors have industry experience. So they know people over here and kind of all over the place. So if you're really showing that you're gung-ho and you're ready to rock and roll, they will vouch for you. But if you're not, then they're not going to vouch for you, because they don't want that. It's a bad reputation.
Sure.
And then we also have only graduates are part of a closed group with contractors that put in, like an online group that has they put in jobs like, hey, I need 3 guys in West Virginia, $40 an hour, blah blah blah. So then they can go on and jump on that bandwagon. But yeah, we're in the works of a few different companies, because we've been approached by quite a few companies that are like, hey, we want to team up with you guys. Let's create a pipeline. And we've seen that your guys' welders are badass and they can pass tests over guys that have been doing this for 20 years. It's pretty wild. So yeah, that's always a constant evolving thing. And that's one thing big about Western Welding Academy is we're never complacent. That's why we move so fast, is because everything, we're always trying to be more efficient. How can we do it better? How can we be more efficient and more valuable? And that's really, the whole company is on the same mission. We're rowing in the same boat, and we're just like gung-ho. So everything is always calculated, and we monitor everything on the back end, especially marketing. We're always looking at the numbers, and we jot down everything, and we have special meetings with, measurables on all different things. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. We, last year, we got 750 million views. So we have about 2.5 million followers across all of our platforms. And last year we hit 750 million views across everything. And then this year our goal is to do 1 billion. So it's pretty cool.
Well, Beau is the creative director. I think you can give yourself a little pat on the back for that. That's some pretty serious numbers for education type academy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it is, I cannot take credit for everything. It is definitely a group effort. We got a really, really good team, and we're charging ahead, and we're just trying to be just different than everyone else. You know what I mean? Like me personally, I don't necessarily look at what a lot of the other trade schools are doing, because then I don't want to be like, oh, maybe we should be doing that. I keep it in my head, purposely not looking at that, because we are the trendsetters in this space. We took a very old school industry, and we're taking very cutting edge marketing and, the whole operation of the school, and just leveling up, because all tides, raise all boats, which we're fully abundance mentality. We do have, once you start to get popular, you're always going to have haters. So we do have other schools that try to take, poke and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, we're not going to just stop what we're doing and be like, we have so much momentum going, right? And then it's like, oh, couple pokes. If we stopped and then used our resources to try to fight back or whatever, that's going to be a waste of time. We're just going to keep moving. And if you guys want to jump on board, then if not, I don't know, I guess you'll get left in the dust. You know what I mean?
Well, to me, like, if you don't have a couple of haters, you're probably not trying hard enough.
Exactly.
It's kind of the way life goes. And also, I've had the experience with Traeger of going into a very stale, old industry and attacking it differently. And, an industry that, on average, brands were going at 2-3%. When we were taking this company from 90 million to where it sits today, we were growing at 20, 30, 35% growth rate, but we, did shit different. We were the guys that showed up at an Ace Hardware trade show dressed as lumberjacks carrying hatchets. We dress as bikers at different trade shows. Like we have a shit ton of fun, but at the end of the day, like we've gone into just a totally stale market and woke it all up. And now you look at other brands at trade shows and other big events and their social media and they've seen what we've done, and it's changed the way they operate. And all it's done, at Traeger for us has made us, find that next level, kind of like you're talking about the same thing you guys are having to do at Western Welding. But that's fun. I would always rather be on the trend setting side than the catching up side. That's kind of one of the mantras I try to live by when I look at partnerships and who I want to work with and things like that is, if you're not at tier 1, be emerging enough that you're taking, yourself or whatever brand you're working with to tier 1. And I think that's pretty solid advice.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I don't know. Like I said, I told myself I'd never work for anyone else again. And that was before I met Tyler and Western and everything.
Yeah.
And I have more fun here than I was at my other company. It's just it's so stimulating, so fast moving, and we're just doing such cool stuff. And I'm not just worrying about, oh man, if I pitch this thing or something like that, I have to pay for it myself, because we're doing bigger things. And it's really cool to see the testimonials and the stories of kids out. And, there was one kid that texted me, and he sent me a screenshot, and he said, hey, just to let you know, it's been a year since I graduated, like to the day, and I paid off my entire student loan, like in 1 year after trade school. And I don't think that a lot of people understand that you can make a ton of money and you can travel. And, at some point it is kind of if you want to do that, it is a young man's game, spend your 20s, maybe early 30s. If you want to start a family, maybe that's not the best route if you want to go out and travel and do all this stuff. But we have kids coming out anywhere from like $3,000 to $11,000 a week. And I saw these paychecks. I'm like, that's a month. Yeah, that's got to be a month. No, it's a week. Now they are working their asses off, but they're young, hungry, willing to travel. Yeah, we got this text from this kid. He doesn't like to boast this, so I won't say his name, but he has the record, and it was $11,000 in a week, and he was 20 years old. I was like, I would not be doing some good things with that money if I was 20 years old with that type of stuff.
I probably would have found a couple of vices quick with that much cash.
Or just all of the vices. Yeah, all of the vices. Leave nothing left. But it's wild, man.
But I think, welding, there's two places I look at that's possible: welding and the patch. And in welding, at least it's something like, dude, that's at 20 you're making that money. Imagine what you're going to be making at 30. You know what I mean? Yeah. With 10 more years of experience. You know what I mean? Or at that point, shit, you may be running your own company, with a ton of these guys under you. You know what I mean? And building something that way. But no, to me, I think that's one of those things that kids, young adults that are looking for something to do. I mean, if you're good with your hands, you like that hustle, you've got some grit to you, you got some work ethic. I mean, this sounds like a great place to be. And I was doing some research on your instructors, getting ready for this discussion. And I mean, gosh, those guys' backgrounds and resumes, like just being around those type of folks for 4.5 to 6 months. I mean, that's going to sharpen you up right there, as long as you go in there with an open mind and open heart and really want to learn and get better and start developing a career.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the instructors, I freaking love those dudes. We're all pretty good buds,
And bro, they all look like welders too. Like you go through that instructor page, you're like the old, I can't remember his name. There's like an old salty guy with looks salty. I'm sure he's a sweetheart, but got like the big gray mustache. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I want that guy teaching me how to lay beads like that. That looks like some real shit.
Yep. Yeah, that dude has 50 years of experience. Yeah. Like the most out of ever, and he loves it. We have a classroom that the first day or couple days when you start in the classroom, but we have a whole shop where it's part classroom and part shop where you learn pipe fitting and all that kind of stuff. So in the shop portion, you can see this. It basically kind of looks like the middle of a power plant, but it's up to the students to learn how to draw these things out, go fit it up, and then they build it themselves. So, a kid that graduates this year, in 2 to 3 years, he can come back in and be like, oh, I remember I made that weld. It's just all a student thing, and it just keeps building out. It's super cool, man. It's, there's some really smart folks that are kind of backing that whole thing, and yeah,
that's awesome.
It's super cool, man. Yeah.
And two other, what I think cool initiatives you guys have, the Blue Collar Tour. I thought that is really neat. Instead of, Yeah, you guys realize you're in Gillette, Wyoming. So getting out on the road and getting, Western Welding Academy out in front of people, telling the stories, kind of talk about how you guys came up with that tour and a little more detail about how it operates and what kind of results you've seen.
Sure. Yeah, so Blue Collar Tour, it started, Tyler started, it was his idea, 2019, I guess, or no, it was 2020. And he was just like, man, we need to get some more awareness about the trades and all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of right during COVID. You notice kind of the suicide rates were up, and everyone was just kind of like hunkered in. So he just hopped in his truck, brought a social media guy with him, and he just literally had really no plan. He just kind of winged it and just started cruising in his truck and went into schools and kind of showed them, a few things here and there. And then the next year, 2020, no, maybe that was 2021, but the second year on the tour, that's when I came on in 2022. And we basically changed it up a little bit. And first of all, the Blue Collar Tour, the main intention is to bring awareness to the trades and get more involvement for the trades from the young people. Because there's some stat I saw that for every blue collar tradesman or tradeswomen that leaves the industry, average age is about 55. And for every 7 that we lose, we only gain 1. So there is a national crisis. It's a actual crisis right now. So there's a huge demand and we don't have enough people to fill it. So the main intention is for to gain some interest into it, just like plant a seed. If a kid is kind of not really knowing what he wants to do, like obviously we're with Western Welding Academy and we know welding, but that's not the main intention. We don't actually even really talk about the school that much. We talk about, hey, we need more electricians, we need plumbers, we need HVAC, we need machinists, we need all of these trades. Like if you guys wanted to be into welding, yeah, we can teach you, but you don't have to do that to be successful,
Right.
So, that's kind of the main intention. And how we go to these schools. It's a little bit of a switch up because, if you see recruiters from trade schools going in and they push themselves on the class and on the school, and they put together the whole class in an auditorium and put up to a PowerPoint presentation. Well, we do it on a reward basis. So like I said, we have a pretty big social media following. So we're like, hey, if you guys want us to come to your school, submit a request, and you have to have a teacher submit a request. So we built out this whole thing where we have a heat map set up on students and teachers and put out a couple social media deals. I remember the first night we were putting it together. This is the first time we'd done this. We're all in a conference room, 2 16-hour days back to back. Finally got the heat map set up, got all the forms, got it all plugged in on our back end for social. We're like, okay, cool. Working with the graphic designer, put some stuff together. Me and Tyler popped over to the room next to us, shot a quick video. Hey guys, we're doing this Blue Collar Tour thing. Brought it back in. I edited it real quick. We put it up online, and then it was within 5 minutes. We could just see on the heat map, boop, submission. So it was no joke. We were like cheering. It was crazy. Like 11 o'clock at night. It was so cool.
But that right there, those are those moments when we go back to what you said earlier, where you said, I'm having more fun doing this than I was with my own company. It's those moments, Beau. You know what I mean? Where
Totally.
you built something and people are reacting to it. Like, don't care how big, how small, but when you do that, there is a certain amount of just, satisfaction and gratitude. And then, okay, we've reached some people. How do we reach more? You know what I mean? Like continuing to move that target. But that is such a cool, meaningful story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. We and it changes that vibe and the reception, because when we take the heat map, we can see large pockets. Oh, okay, Texas, this place has a large pocket, and then we plan the route because there is demand. Oh, these guys want us to come? Okay, cool. We'll go there. They have to have a teacher to submit a request because they have to host this at their school.
Right.
So we plan that route. So when we show up, we got a tour bus. Not the second year. We had 2003 Honda Odyssey, aka the Honda Odyssey, and then had a welding truck and a trailer, and it was just like 3 or 4 of us kind of cycling in and out, just cruising along and staying in hotels and doing that whole deal. But yeah, finally when we show up, like no joke, we step off the bus, and some of these instructors that we have on social media a lot, they're a well-known face to these younger kids. You know, they're like stars. We don't get it because we're just back at the school, we're just shooting on phones and, you know, doing all this kind of stuff. We step on site, and these instructors are getting like mobbed with pictures, autographs, all this, and instructors are like, whoa, what's going on here, man? I'm just a welder. So I come from, you know, music tour background, so I did that for quite a while, and I was like, this is exactly what it was like, you know, like back in the day. And I don't know, it was just really cool. I'm like, that is my job, is to make these guys look like rock stars, you know, and it's working, and it's a completely different shift when you show up and everyone is like, we cannot believe you guys came. This is so amazing. The teachers, the students, we got superintendents coming out. We got, you know, all these different people. Because again, we're there for the trades in general. We're going to do a welding demonstration and show them that. That's what we know. But we are not just like, hey, you have to be a welder to be successful. So yeah, I mean, it was 2 years ago. Well, it was in the first year that we were going out with a Honda Odyssey, and kind of in the planning meeting, I'm like, hey, maybe next year we get a tour bus. And I was just kind of joking. And then next year rolls around, and they're like, okay, so should we talk about this bus? I was like, really? Okay, cool. So yeah, I remember that first year, you know, to rent a tour bus. We didn't buy the bus, but to rent it is quite expensive. But you save some money on hotels and all that kind of stuff. Everyone just sleeps on the bus. So I remember the night before we left, you know, because we had it fully wrapped and we had sponsors and the whole deal. I took a couple of photos that were on the side of the bus. So my graphic designer and we got together. We're like, okay, let's create the wrap for the bus, because it has to be like super cool looking and flashy and have the sponsors in a specific spot. And I just remember it was the day before we left. Everyone was out of the shop, and I was the last one. I just sat there. The bus was in the shop, and I just sat there, and I was like kind of getting like a little emotional. I was like, my blue collar background with my video and my touring all came together in this, like the blue collar tour. Like, how crazy is that, you know? So yeah, it's it was kind of a little bit of a moment. I was like, man, this is so freaking cool.
Those are awesome. That's what keeps you going. And sometimes, you know, in the moment you need that second to sit back and celebrate, you know what I mean? And recognize and appreciate, you know, what you've done, what the Academy's done, like how it's cool to see it all go full circle, and how you're applying your abilities that you've curated over these decades into doing something you're super passionate about and that you love. I mean, that's living right there, bro.
Yeah, it's really cool to see what just starts as an idea becoming like a physical thing. And it's, you know, we'll get thousands of submissions from those students, like literally thousands, and we have to kind of, you know, knock it down a little bit. And it's so crazy to see the amount of attention that you get. I mean, we'll have anywhere from 200 to 300 applications to the school a week. Our best week, we got 800 applications in 1 week. It was bananas. Wow. So crazy.
So in 1 week, you're getting as many applications as what you forecast for this year's enrollment.
Yeah.
That is some Harvard type
these
numbers
are applications. Yeah, it's there's a large demand, and we're just trying to make blue collar cool again, you know, and not. That's another thing that we touch on during the tour is, you know, we've been fed college is the only way for the last, you know, 3 decades. College is the only way to be successful. If you don't go to college, you're a bum, you're a degenerate, you know, and even, you know, the parents, they're almost embarrassed. Oh, where's your son going to college? Oh, he's going to go be a mechanic. Oh, really? Like they're not, you know, pumped about it, even though that now your son or daughter goes off and gets a college degree, unless it's, you know, you're becoming a doctor or attorney or something like that. Sometimes you have to do that to get into that field. But, you know, go off for college for 4 years versus going to a trade school for 6 months, getting right out into the workforce, paying off your tuition in a year, and you're 3 years ahead of
Easy.
all those people that went to college. They graduate, they're $150K in debt, and they can't even find a $40K in a year job. So it's like, really, or what's going on there?
Yep.
You know. So
I'm
yeah,
a very. No, I was sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say I'm a very firm believer in exactly what you just said, because it is that mindset of, because I grew up right in the middle of it. That mindset of
Same.
you got to go to college if you're going to be successful. And I did my 4 years at college. Thankfully I had good enough grades. I had no student debt, any of that stuff. So I was very fortunate. But at the same time, as a hiring manager for so many years, I always told people, to me, that college degree gets you just your first job. And it may start you
Entry
one
level.
leg up, in the career path. You may start as a senior analyst instead of an analyst, or you know what I mean. But
Right.
That's going to be about it. After that, it's going to be based off your product and your work ethic. So,
Right.
unless it's something specialized, like you were saying, a doctor, a dentist, a nurse, but if it's just marketing or liberal arts or something like that, like what are you really gleaning from? And if you do like working with your hands and you've got some work ethic, if you want to get to providing for yourself and hopefully a family in the future, I think the trades are the quickest, easiest, most fulfilling way to go.
Yeah, 100%. And, it just not the trades, but I'll have people come up and be like, hey, should I go to film school? And I'm, looking back, this was back in 2007 when I graduated.
Yep.
And I was like, honestly, if you're not going into like film stuff and movie sets and all that, please do not go, because the teachers that are teaching you in those film schools, they're 3-4 years behind of what's out currently. Like YouTube University, go do that. It's free if you're hungry, if you want to learn. And the barrier of entry now for like video stuff is so much smaller than, like, I can go pay $400 or $500 for a camera that when I was going to school cost like $30,000. Like the same tech. So it is so, like, the barrier of entry is very, very low, and maybe that's not for like a lot of the trades, but if you want it, you'll figure out a way to get it. No one's going to hand it to you. So we tell kids at the school, it's like, if your parent is making you come and doing this, you're not the right fit. Like, you have to convince your parent that, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to move out to Wyoming in the sticks to go do this trade school. Like, those are the kids we want, Yeah.
Yep. No, I love it. It sounds like, I love kind of the mission and what you guys are doing. The growth is amazing. One more thing I want to hit on that I think is super cool and unique is this welding competition that you guys have and sponsor, which is coming up, May 4th?
May 4th. Yep.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you bet. So, yeah, we do an annual welding competition. It's getting bigger and bigger every year, just like we always like to do. But yeah, we'll have, I think last year we had 300 competitors, and then about right under 1,000 people total, because you'll get parents that come in and, just a bunch of like, people that kind of want to check things out or whatever. But there's two different divisions. There's a high school division, and then there's an open division. So high school division, they obviously have to be in high school. So while we're out on tour, we're like, hey, this would be a great opportunity if you guys are interested in welding, like, come down to Gillette. And we have this high school welding competition. The top prize is full tuition paid for. Second one is half, and then the third one is a quarter. And then also to go along with those scholarships, they get a full prize table of probably a couple grand worth of tools from our sponsors and a bunch of cool stuff. And then the second part is the open division. That's 10 grand cash for first place, 5K cash for second, and then 2,500 for third. And that's, anyone that's been out in the industry outside of high school, you get 20-year-old vets out there coming in to see if they can slick one on, and then they get, the prize tables and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we have food trucks. It's very like well organized. We all like to stay lockstep. So there's several meetings and everything that goes into it. We have a stage. We bring out some speakers. We'll have the mayor out this year, and you kind of do a couple of speeches and all that stuff, and just kind of get the energy up. We do a mullet competition that is always a big highlight for the for the comp. So we'll have like little kids up there with just a pretty slick Kentucky waterfall, just cranking out the back, and yeah, they'll get like a little prize, and we have our merch set up and our vendors and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, May 4th. It's going to be a ton of fun. 90% of people come from out of state, so we got people flying in from Alaska and all over the place. So it's a great place for the teachers, the high school teachers, to kind of learn a little bit more about and get into a little bit more about welding on what we do at the school. So
Sure.
then they can bring it back. So the day before the competition, on Friday, it's called a teacher's workshop. So it's for high school teachers or for anyone. They come in and they get to train under us for a day while they bring in students, because it's extra, further education that
Sure.
counts as, every teacher has to have,
Yep.
16 hours a year or something. This counts as 8. If they can get the school to fund it to bring themselves and like 5 kids to do the competition,
Sure.
they get to do their teacher's workshop. The kids, we have mine tours, like there's a bunch of coal mines and all that stuff around here. Picks them up in a bus and they get to go tour, and the teacher really gets to kind of get ingrained into what we teach. Because you notice as you go to these schools, a lot of times what happens is it's an ag program that the teacher's like head of ag, and they're like, oh, you can teach welding too, and they're like, I kind of know about welding, but I'd like to know more. So they're like, yeah, let me get more knowledge. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, the other thing I love too about the way you have the competition with the high school kids in the open is this is letting these guys see some of these grizzly 10, 15, 20-year vets of the industry, rub elbows with them, talk with them. You know what I mean? Like, what's
Totally.
their journey been like? Provide them further inspiration into, yeah, man, this is something I think I want to do. Or, man, dude, no, I don't know that I could go to Alaska for 6 months and do, you know what I mean? Like, but
Right.
but let them learn either way from somebody that's been out there and actually got the calluses. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, and it's, we have different simulators set up. So we have a torch cutting competition. So very, like, if you don't know how to weld or anything like that, it's very low barrier of entry if you're kind of interested.
Yeah.
Different, like our pipeline simulator, and we got a bunch of different stations. So you don't actually have to be in the competition, or while you're not competing, you can go out and try all of our simulators around campus. And it's a great place for the younger kids that want to talk to our instructors, so it's like we have some of our instructors floating around that aren't judging. They can kind of do a one-on-one, and they're kind of interested in the school or just in welding in general. And yeah, it's cool. We'll have a couple of instructors. We have a long registration line. They just walk the line and shake hands, and I just look at their faces, and they're just like they met the biggest superstar in the world. So it's so cool.
Beau, we tell everybody once again where they can go check out Western Welding Academy, because, and guys, I will tell you too, like, this isn't just a shameless plug, but I've been all through their socials, all through the website. It is rich. It is well done. To me, that was where I kind of got that first inclination and like, yeah, this is old school trade training, but in a new, cool, hip way. So, go tell everybody where they can check those out, because you guys are on almost all platforms.
Yeah, we're on pretty much every major platform. TikTok, we got like 1.2 million followers, and Instagram's 300 and 550 on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So, all of our socials, it's usually just at Western Welding Academy. And then website is applytoweld.com, APPLY, WELD.com.
Love it. And anything else? Anybody else you want to thank before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I would just thank Stefan, Jason, Justin, everyone from Trollco. This has been super cool for you to connect me, and yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a lot of fun. This is my first one, so hopefully I didn't blow it.
Man, you did an absolute great job, and I'll tell you, it's somebody that we needed to have on, because we've talked in a lot of these other interviews, and I'm sure we will in the future, about how we do need to save this trades industry, and how if we don't get on it sooner than later, we're going to face a real problem. And you hit on that with for every 7 we're losing, we're only picking up 1. That's just what you ain't got to be a major in math, old boy. That just ain't sustainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time,
got to change, man.
Yeah, we can all sit around and bitch about it, but you guys are actually doing something about it, and that's we need more of that. So, anybody that's listening to this, any other trades academies that are doing it the right way, feel free to reach out. We'd love to, if there's some plumbing academies or anything out there like that, electricians that are doing that kind of thing, we'd love to have you on and help you share your story with hopefully some of those young listeners that are trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life. Well, there's options out there. You just got to go find them. And also go check out the website too and see if the blue collar tour's coming towards you. I think that'd definitely just be something to check out if you're interested, and just get your feet wet and see what these guys are doing and just what's going on overall in the trades.
You betcha.
All right,
yes,
Beau.
sir. Well, thank you, Chad.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time. You guys, once again, go check it out. Western Welding Academy. Beau, thanks so much again, man.
You betcha.
Thank you so much for listening to the Old Boy Podcast. Please subscribe, set your notifications, whatever you got to do to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. Also, feel free to go back, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Get some of the past episodes, check those out, and always feel free to check out our socials, Old Boy Podcast. Thank you so much.